Now, third point, we're halfway guys, third point is know that God is sovereign. Now what I mean by sovereign here is that God is the king. God is the total ruler. God is totally in control. Everything revolves around Him and not us. Now this is really important because Abram starts speaking up again. Not that bit. We'll look at that in a second. But Abram, he starts to speak up and says, okay, how will I possess this land? You've told me I'm going to have this land. You've told me I'm going to have these children. I want to know the details. I want to know when it will happen, how it will happen. He wants to know these things. And that's like us as well. We want to know these details these details. And God says, look, God didn't even need to speak, actually. God didn't need to prove anything. He could have just walked away. But He tells Abram to kill a few animals, cut them in half, lay them aside. We'll get back to that. But God gives him a vision, and He gives him a vision of what will happen. In verse 13, God says, "Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years." You want to know what's going to happen? You want to know the details, Abram? I can tell you the details. Your offspring will be slaves. They will be slaves in a foreign land, and they'll be slaves for 430 years, to be exact. You want to know the details? You got them. And all of a sudden, that's probably not the answer that Abram was thinking, wanting. He didn't want that answer. And so all of a sudden he's gone from not thinking he's going to have any offspring to now worrying about all his offspring that they're going to be slaves. Now sometimes we want to know the truth as well, don't we? We want to know we're on the right path. We want to know the details in what's going to happen. But God is saying here, look, just trust in me, okay? Have faith in me. Know that I'm with you. These things will happen. You don't need to know the details. It's like Acts. Remember the beginning of Acts? And Jesus has taught them for 40 days some really good, solid teaching. Things that they need to know. And then He's about to ascend, and then the disciples are like, well, when are you going to come back? When is the kingdom going to begin? You know, are you going to start your kingdom now? You know, we want to know the details. Are you amillennialists? Is it an actual 1,000 years? In a nice way, Jesus says, shut up. You don't need to know. You don't need to know times and seasons, but what you do need to know is that the power of the Spirit will come, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Samaria, Judea, and to the ends of the earth. That's what you need to know. And He says the same thing to Peter, doesn't He? He told Peter how he was going to die, and then Peter points to John and says, what about him? What's going to happen to him? Is he going to be around when you come back? What's the details of his life? And Jesus says, don't worry about him, follow me. Okay? That's the thing that matters. And so when it comes to God's sovereignty, know that He is in total control. Abraham wanted to know the details. God gave him the details, but he doesn't need to know the details. And so we need to know that we're not the sovereign. So these are two reality checks that we have to get through our head. Number one is pain and progress go together. We want progress, don't we? Abram, he wanted progress. He wanted the land. He wanted the offspring. He wanted blessings right now. But he didn't want pain. He didn't want to know about pain. And the reality check is they always go together. They always go together. On mission, we want progress, don't we? We want more people to come and hear about Jesus. We want more people to become Christians and disciples. We want to open gates in Forest Hill in the future, possibly. We want solid teaching. We want all this. We want progress in our lives, everything. Pain, we don't want pain. But we will get pain. People will slam their doors in front of our face when we're letterbox dropping. People will come a couple of days and then they won't come to the really big day when we talk about Jesus. There'll be pain. And pain is really there to test our faith, to strengthen our faith, to refine our character, and to glorify our Creator. Pain is good when it's for the kingdom of God. So Abraham, he wants his progress, but he doesn't want pain. And you see that, you know, when he's cutting the animals in half, and the vultures come down, they attack the pieces. Already in the covenant between God and Abraham, God and his people, there's opposition. There's opposition, and we're going to have opposition to the gospel as well. Because the gospel is effective, infective, offensive, and offensive. It's all those things. Pain and progress go together. Know that the whole book of Exodus, it's one of pain, isn't it? You read the book of Exodus and all the things that God's doing, all those different judgments to Egypt, all this pain that's going on. They finally get out of Egypt, they cross the Red Sea, and all of a sudden they're in the desert, they're starving, they want to go back. There's just pain everywhere. And even if you keep going, the book of Judges, you know, they have all these different judges that help them out because they keep sinning. There's just so much pain. The different conquerors, they come and take their land. And you see it in the exile when they're taken away. Even in Jesus' time, there was still pain. The Romans were coming in. The temple was demolished. And even in Acts, you just still see pain. But boy, is there progress. Boy, is there progress. There is a lot of progress in the New Testament. There's a lot of progress in the Old Testament. There's a lot of pain as well. So know that pain and progress go together. Number 2, God goes by His watch, not ours. See, we want to go by our watch. We want these promises to happen now. We live in a society where we email people, we phone people, we Google them instantly. We can do all those things instantly. And we think that God will be the same. Like a piñata bat, we just smack him and lollies come out. But God goes by His watch, not our watch. And Abram, he's not going to see this land. Abram is not going to see this land. Even his grandsons will not see this land. Even the people in Exodus will not see this land. And it actually happens that there'll be 430 years in slavery, and roughly 700 years between now, in Genesis 15, and when they get finally into the promised land. 700 years. God is slow with promises, but He's always on time. 700 years to finally get the land. It might be another 1 billion years until Jesus comes back. We don't know. I might not get to the end of this talk before Jesus comes back. But the thing is, there may well be things that happen for Tarcutta Mission that we will not see in our lifetime. God might have great success for Tarcutta. It might be the case that we do get to see the harvest this year, maybe in a few generations. That's when the harvest happens. But it goes by God's watch. And just like John the Baptist, he just happened to be there at the right time. He was the guy that baptized Jesus. He was the guy that pointed to Jesus. He was the first one. He was the major sign, the last prophet. But even he never saw the transfiguration. He never saw the cross. He never saw the resurrection. But he laid down the foundations so that his disciples will see it. See, we might not see the fruit of our work now, but we plant down the foundations for someone else to build upon it. Because everything, the big idea is everything doesn't revolve around us. It revolves around God because He's the sovereign. He's the ruler. And things don't revolve around us. I want to use this illustration of William Tyndale. William Tyndale lived in about the 1400s, and he wanted to translate the Bible into English so that common English people could pick up the Bible. Instead of it being in Latin, they could read the Bible in their own language. Common people would understand God, know the gospel, know Jesus. And they wouldn't let him do it. The church was very angry with it. They didn't want him to translate, and he managed to translate them, and he started, distributing them all over England and Europe. This was just before the